Hello everyone. I want you all to take a closer look at these news clippings and try and identify a common theme. If you're thinking passwords, then you are right. When I think about passwords, some words come to my mind, namely names of people's pets, date of births, anniversaries, names of best friends at school. By the way, all of this information is public information. Unfortunately, thanks to our own doings or bad actors stealing them and posting it on the internet for everyone else to see. For OT security, when I think about passwords, some other words come to my mind, namely weak passwords, default passwords, leaked passwords, and same old, not changing forever passwords. That was the safety moment of the day to change your passwords. Superheroes also have the need, or even superheroes have to change their passwords. A little bit about me. I started in the automation industry even before I started working for any organization. As an undergraduate student, I trained at Hindustan Motors, who are pioneers in car manufacturing in India since the 1940s. Here, my young, curious mind was ignited when I saw how automation assisted factory workers to build and assemble the iconic Ambassador car. After that, it was no looking back. I jumped at every opportunity that I could get my hands on. These were the early days where computers were limited to the boundaries of buildings. In 2007, working for an engineering design company in Baytown brought me closer to instruments, sizing them, creating instrument drawings, P&ID walkthroughs, and occasional tampering on the Windows systems or Windows servers. I soon found myself studying industrial networks and industrial automation and control systems. Working with on various lifecycle projects, legacy control systems, and PLCs to improve processes and achieve a competitive edge. Currently, I work for Covestro LLC, a leading producer of advanced polymer and high-performance plastics in North America and all over the world, where my role is to support the OT security initiatives in process control technology. I also serve as a member of the Safety and Security Board, a SafeSec, or is part of the International Society of Automation. So if you are part of ISA, give me a shout out. While my expertise is in industrial automation control system security with a focus on network security, I'm very passionate about cybersecurity. I believe simplifying cybersecurity, whether it is making sense of the regulations and guidelines or aligning the organization's standards and practices to align with the business goals by paying attention to people. You can get in touch with me, follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter simply by going to icsbits.com/CS4CA. I will also have all of the materials, this PowerPoint, references and links, anything that I've discussed in this presentation available for you to download. If you have any questions about this presentation today, please use the chat function available in the virtual conference platform. All right, in 2013, President Barack Obama issued the Presidential Decision Directive 21, and it defines cyber resilience as the ability to prepare for and adapt to changing conditions and withstand and recover rapidly from disruptions. Then in 2017, President Trump issued the Executive Order 13800, which aimed at improving the nation's cybersecurity posture and capabilities to monitor, detect, and take appropriate action on the intensifying cybersecurity threats. This is clear indication that we as a nation have taken a stance against these emerging threats and should be a good reason why you as an organization should invest and direct your time and effort to build your OT security cyber resilience. Resilience will mean different things to different people. For me, resilience in a broad sense means having minimal or no impact to OT systems and processes, to be able to recover from incidents, maintain safety as a high priority after a cyber incident. It also means to be able to maintain industrial automation and control systems integrity and availability. In order to have successful cyber resilience program as an organization, it is important to define your goals for your cybersecurity program. Like I had said before, it is different for different people, organizations, and businesses. It is important to define this for your organization at every level. IT and OT should have their definitions. So what is your definition? Let us try and identify some of the objectives that are commonly defined when building the cybersecurity program. Identify and detect, which involves the use of continuous security monitoring and attack surface management to detect anomalies and potential intrusions before and after the attack on the ICS. Respond and recover. This involves implementing adequate incident response planning to ensure that your operations can continue safely or safely shut down in an event. Protect. This involves the use of endpoint protection, network security, segmentation in your process as well as in your network, your process control network, and of course configuration and change management principles. Effective and durable. This is the final element in which you ensure that this cyber resilience program is evolving, is adaptive, and is part of your routine business and operation. So where do we even start thinking about OT cyber resilience? There are many ways you can define cyber resilience for your OT systems. You may have already begun in a way. Many organizations have a lot of effort already directed in securing and managing risks of their OT assets and industrial automation control system environments. So for such organizations, it is about structuring their cybersecurity efforts, organizing, prioritizing, and strategically defining the objectives and achieving them, and thus improving the overall OT security posture of the organization. If all that sounded googly-goop, let me make it simple. Start by asking these simple questions. What are your crown jewels, also known as mission critical assets? What do we have now in place, that is endpoint security, patch management, network segmentation, data encryption, firewall authentication? Do you have roles and responsibilities very well defined? How effective are the control measures that are already in place? Start by assessing your network architecture, your firewalls, switches, conduct physical security audits, review your current OT security standards. How does your notification system work? How your critical information flows between OT security and your business and asset owners, especially during incidents. Then we have these star questions, which really help you understand the amount of effort you as an organization should put into building your cyber resilience. Do you know what can happen if your process control network was compromised? Would your safety systems kick in? Or would the adversaries be able to manipulate your safety controls? What type of engineering, administrative, physical, and logical controls are available that can be implemented? Out of these controls, which one of those will help you contain those incidents? For example, network segmentation and process segmentation can help you in isolating compromised networks and contain the infection. What options do you have in terms of resources that can be applied to restoring your operation? If your systems were compromised and brought down, can you minimize the effects? Some of the examples of strategies can include business recovery plans, disaster recovery plans, and incident management and response strategies. Dozens of cybersecurity services and vendors put out these annual reports. I see these reports as a good indicator to focus your strategies for this year or planning for the next year. Here is one that VMware put out in 2020, which talks about ransomware distribution across various industry verticals. Here we see energy sector, government agencies, and manufacturing had the highest number of cases. Some of the key points or takeaway from this report is ransomware threats are growing. The adversaries are seeking to disrupt the critical infrastructures for financial gain and for other objectives. We saw this recently with the Colonial pipeline. Even though it did not directly impact the OT networks, it affected the IT networks, which affected the overall operations and business processes. So taking ransomware as one of the cybersecurity threats for our OT environments, the key points to prepare for such an incident would be to execute incident response plans, to develop routine backup and recovery procedures for both OT and IT networks. Understand how your business entities are dependent on IT infrastructure to have reliable operation. Now, I want to talk a little bit about defense in depth because this is the most important principle in OT, and it really makes sense for a few reasons. Because ICS is one of the areas where ICS specific security solution has not kept up with the emerging threat landscape. So it makes sense to have defense in depth. Everyone has seen defense in depth compared to a castle, which is also called as a castle approach to security. I wanted to bring a little different perspective, something more comparable to the current challenges of integrating IIoT, cyber physical systems, into our network architecture model. So if you focus in this area, and if I zoom in a little bit, you will see the formation of soldiers, infantry, and cavalry, and this is called as vyuha, which is in Sanskrit language and it simply means formation. This particular formation was one of tens of different formations that were used in an 18-day long war due to a conflict between two dynasties in India that occurred around 10,000 BC. This formation is called Chakravyuha, essentially a labyrinth, a complicated irregular network of passages and paths which is difficult to bypass. Some of the characteristics of this type of formation are that it is dynamic, meaning it changes and continuously adapts itself to positions and situations of the attack. So in a particular formation, if one of the generals was attacked, it is technically designed in such a way that every other general knows what needs to be done to restructure the vyuha and maintain its formation and integrity. Another important feature is that the vyuha would constantly change and adapt itself to ensure that the target is met. To achieve this type of sophisticated maneuvers and changes, they used a strict code of conduct, also used secret messaging or secret codes. Big drums and trumpets were played in a certain tune to instruct the cavalry and the infantrymen what to do next. Also, the formation has another trick up its sleeves. It would lure the enemy to take a path that would lead them to elimination of the entire troop, which is why I feel this is very close to modern day cyber war. And the feature that I described last is very similar to the honeypot that we use in our cyber world. So let's take a look at the modern day defense in depth strategy a bit closer. These strategies are not in any particular order, and depending on what you have already implemented in your organization, some of these strategies will help you draw that big picture for your OT security. So the first one in this list is the risk management program. So essentially these are there to identify the different threats that are emerging, also to be able to categorize and realize your risks, and obviously put countermeasures in place to be able to mitigate them. Physical security, involves perimeter security, control room access, your industrial automation control system, server room, CCTV monitoring. Those are the type of security that comes under physical security. Process control, network architecture. We talk about having a demilitarized zone, DMZ, creating virtual LANs, having access control lists on your switches, and so on and so forth. But also following some sort of a model. There are several different models. There's Purdue model, there's ISA, ISA's 99 model for hierarchical network infrastructure or network layering for your industrial automation control systems. Then we have the patch and vulnerability management, which is focused more on like your Windows server, your switches, your systems, anything that can be patched, that has a life cycle, kind of falls into the patch and vulnerability management. Monitoring and detection is basically intrusion detection systems, log monitoring, security incident management, all part of the monitoring and detection strategy. Then we have the procurement, the vendor and supply management, which is basically procurement of your IT technologies, hardware, supply chain management, and also could include some of your cloud service strategy or cloud service security. Procedures and policies and training and awareness. This is mostly that people part, which is, we all say it's the people management part, where you are providing security awareness training on ICS procedures and policies. Due to limited time, I will cover one of the main strategies that will help with building your cyber resilience, which is risk assessment and management. Your organization's risk management and risk assessment starts with adopting cybersecurity frameworks. Frameworks basically are just a conceptual architecture to support your cybersecurity programs, which include risk assessment and risk management strategies. While there are tens of cybersecurity frameworks, one of the most popular frameworks used in cybersecurity here in the US and in some parts of the world is the NIST framework. NIST stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology, and their Cyber Resilience Framework, which is Cybersecurity Framework CSF, categorizes the framework into 5 stages, which is here on the slide. You can see identify, protect, and by the way, these categories have subcategories, which you can see under identify. You have asset management, but it has these identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. They also can be seen in terms of stages. So you go from the left to right, but you can also see it listed in this view where you're going from top to the bottom. Basically, this is the spreadsheet view. As you can see, the same functions of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, and categories just are in columns. Also, you can see the category identifier. So for example, for identify, you have id.am. AM stands for asset management. And these are really useful when you're referencing a certain function in your audits, in your assessments, and helpful to reference any of these different functions. In my previous slide, which when I was talking about cyber resilience, I had asked several questions, and including some of the star questions. So let me bring that slide back, and so we can see basically how the cybersecurity framework, which is the NIST cybersecurity framework, can actually answer your questions and basically help you build your cyber resilience or your cybersecurity program. As you can see, you don't have to live with just questions, right? So a framework, in adopting your framework, can actually help you answer these. Furthermore, it is important to note that a good implementation of the cybersecurity framework involves covering all of the categories and subcategories properly. What I mean by that and I can give you an example. The cybersecurity framework recovery stage, which you saw was on the bottom there, which I will represent here as an RC using its identifier, has an important category called recovery planning, which I will represent by RP. So which is basically rc.rp. Okay. Thus we have the rc.rp, but in order to successfully implement rc.rp, organizations need to have the protect category, which was, if you remember, let me just quickly go back. If you remember, it was the second stage or second function there. So in order to implement recover, you need to really implement the protect category. Now, protect function has multiple categories, and these categories have subcategories. So if I take the category awareness and training, which I will represent as AT, this one has about 4 to 5 subcategories. So obviously represented by AT. So if I say PR.AT, or I can say PR.AT-subcategory. So basically, in order to implement the recover function properly, you will have to have met all of the protect function with awareness and training, etc. So it actually helps you to be very comprehensive in the sense you have to be able to meet all of these functions and requirements in order to actually have a successful cybersecurity assessment. NIST.gov has a great learning tool on CSF if you are interested in taking a deeper dive into this security framework, or there are tens of others out there that you can adopt. But if you're interested in the NIST, they have really good lessons and where you can basically go and learn about the background. You can also see some of the used cases on their website. I highly recommend going through this NIST CSF to get a good understanding on various types of controls, and also they provide you with a mapping document, especially for ICS, and I'll tell you why this is important. So this is a document they'll provide you. Any framework you adopt, you always end up mapping it to other frameworks just so you can satisfy some external auditors, or sometimes you have government entities that would like you to be compliant in certain regulations, and they have adopted a certain framework. So in order to show them that you comply and you are in par with their framework, you always have to map. So here I have the ISA 62443 2-1 standard, the ISA standard, which is ICS specific. So that you can basically tie that back to your NIST CSF. So here are some of the lessons learned, and this is not an exhaustive list, but it's definitely something that I have come across in multiple organizations and discussions with my peers in the industry. Scheduling in ICS. OT environments are heavily limited to schedules, turnaround activities, and availability of vendor support, which will add to the cost and time to implement the recommendations or countermeasures. Sometimes the existing legacy systems and networks do not provide any room to implement the desired countermeasure, and lifecycle upgrades are your best bet, which again increases the cost and can be challenging. The demand for OT security professionals is growing exponentially as organizations are trying to build their OT security teams, leveraging your existing workforce, like identifying individuals in your current process control technology departments, or bringing someone in from IT and providing them with enough exposure to training is a great alternate way to build and add these necessary roles in your organization to build your OT teams, OT security teams. The relationship between your organization and your ICS vendor is something that you should take more serious. Most ICS vendors are growing their capabilities to address the emerging threat to ICS systems, and I see a perfect opportunity to work with your vendors on special projects that could benefit both the parties. Last important lesson is about how to involve your IT, the business side of information technology and its resources, leveraging that to actually help you build your OT security program. I believe a successful ICS security is only possible with a strong partnership between the ICS world and the IT business world, and bringing them together into discussions on cybersecurity would be a great start to building that relationship. Also, being able to leverage the technology, knowledge, and expertise that IT has already developed could reduce the time and effort to further improve and bring momentum to your ICS cyber resilience. Thank you for attending this session, and I hope you found it useful. Here is the link to get in touch with me and find out more. You can download the PowerPoint presentation, and any of the links that I would like you to look at are available in this on this page. I hope you stick around for more interesting topics and enjoy the rest of this conference.